you probably already know what you should be doing with money, what you're supposed to be doing with money. If I handed you $10,000 right now, I want you to pause the video and think, what are the top 10 things you would be doing with that money? And then I want you to come back. So when you look at that list of things, you literally probably wrote down things that have to do with either saving money or spending it in a smart way. You've had time to think on how you want to allocate it, but that was right now. That was just now. So that means that you already had the knowledge in your head. You just don't maybe have the physical cash, but you already technically, logically know what you're supposed to be doing with your money. Probably has something to do with spending less, saving more money. Don't act emotionally. Think about the decisions you're going to make. So if we already know that, and we can literally write a list of all the things we would do if we had money for like just disposable income handed to us, then why don't we actually act on money the way we know we should? Like, why does our knowledge not work in real life? It is because the problem was never knowledge. Knowledge is no longer an excuse, first of all. We're in 2026. We have ChatGPT, we have Notebook LM, we have so many AI bots and artificial intelligence tools that we have. We have Perplexity, and we have Google for the past 2 decades, first of all. So even before AI, we had the ability to research. And so I don't want us to ever use the fact that we don't have knowledge to a disadvantage, because you have a public library near you where you can get free books, sit there for an hour a day, read a book. Like, you have always had the resource to have more knowledge. So knowledge is not the problem. And also, even if it was, like, some people try to use like, oh, I don't know what I should do. Like, I don't know, like, I didn't have a silver spoon in my mouth. That's what a lot of people say. Or, I haven't had the ability to be fed information from some rich person, whatever. But at the end of the day, let's just say, like, benefit of the doubt, that's true. How are you still able to write that 10 list of things that I just asked you about? It's because you already have knowledge. So it's not that you have zero knowledge. It's that you do have working knowledge. The problem was never knowledge. And knowledge is always going to be something that grows. Even the richest person on earth doesn't know everything about money. So it's not knowledge. It's the fact that the things you know and the way that you behave when situations change is the problem. So I want to break down exactly why this gap exists for most people, because knowledge is not the problem. And knowledge is always going to grow. Knowledge is always going to be something that increases over time. But the issue is that your knowledge lives in a very fun space in your head called a calm state. When everything is fine and nothing is going wrong in your life, there's no fires to put out, you understand money logically. Like, when nothing is happening, you understand budgeting, you understand everything you've learned about saving, everything you've learned about investing, everything you've learned about risking money and the return on your money, etc. But the issue is all those things that you know, all those things in your knowledge bank, that is a version of you that doesn't actually exist when you're making the decisions. If you think about it, when your life is going perfect and nothing is wrong, guess what? That means that you don't have to make any decisions because nothing's going wrong. Nobody's making decisions, important decisions, when nothing's going wrong. The reason we have to make important decisions is because things are going wrong. Okay? So if something is going wrong and something is changing in our lives and something is not being not something that we've figured out yet, we have to make decisions and pivot, and we have to use our knowledge. Those are the high stress points in our life. Let's genuinely think about it. The times where you have to make decisions are the times where you're most stressed. And so because when we're not stressed, we're like, oh, I have all this knowledge. I know what I would do. This is what I would do if I had the money. Like, I know what I should be doing with my saving, my investing, and my budgeting. Like, we have this knowledge bank, but that version of you is not the one who's making the decisions. The issue is that money decisions almost never happen in calm states. You almost always are in a state where you have to make a change. You have to do something. You have to pivot. Maybe you lost a job, or you have something that shows up in your life, or your car breaks down, or something like a large expense pops up. Those are the times where you have to make big changes or big decisions. And that's the time where you're most stressed. And so we have this thing called emotional override, where urgency, which is like your need and your desire to go fast or to make quick change or need to make quick change, this urgency is what changes your decision making. So it's not that you can't have decision making, it just splits into two different things. There's a positive side and a negative side. So the positive side decision making is when you go into excitement, where everything feels like an opportunity to you and you want to throw your money into things and you start to have overconfidence, right? But then you can also have the other side where you feel avoidance because you're very fearful of the decisions you may or may not have to make. And so either way, you can feel stuck, or either way, you can get yourself in a bad situation, because these are not the neutral position. These are like very positive or very negative because you're in a different emotional state. And this is where most people literally misunderstand themselves. It's not even that, adults don't make good decisions or we can't make good decisions. It's just that you're not a one size fits all. You're a human. You're not a one type of decision maker. You have a calm state when nothing's going wrong. Everything you've ever learned is at the top of your fingertips, and you feel like, oh, if I had this money, this is exactly what I'd do with it. But then you also have this other side of you, which is the emotional, positive or emotional, negative that I just explained. And those are different systems. Those are different people. Like the emotional you is always going to override every single time. The same way our subconscious mind is going to override our conscious every single time. It puts us into survival mode because we're in a high stress environment. So in real time, you actually don't forget discipline. You don't forget the knowledge you have. You don't forget what you're supposed to do. Like we talked about in the beginning, what actually happens is you switch modes, and you actually don't know that you're switching between these two personality types. So the question is not that, am I bad with money? I don't know what I'm doing. The real question is, how do you actually fix the flip-flop between that? Like, that's almost insane that every single adult has that natural tendency to do that, to flip between from a calm state to either very positive or to a very negative one, where we're kind of blinded by the decisions we have to make. So one of the best things is a delay system, where you're introducing time between emotion and action. So when there's a very emotional state, even 10 to 15 minutes can change the way that you make decisions. It puts you more into a calm state, which allows you to act on the knowledge you already have. And so before doing any sort of decision making under pressure or under any sort of anxiety or urgency, you want to make sure that you're first identifying, am I being overly excited or overly confident about this opportunity and everything just looks perfect right now? Or am I looking at something super negatively and I'm going to either do something I shouldn't do, or I'm going to just be frozen in inability to just I'm just paralyzed by making a decision. So you have to label it before you go and act on anything. And when you reduce that intensity, it actually increases your logic. Remember, as an adult, you're always flipping between those two things. You're always flipping between how much, it's 100%, right? But you're always going between and always balancing between how much logic you use. So a very standard rule can be, when you're feeling super intense, if you add a time delay, it's going to restore that logic back. And then it's also going to just reduce that intensity, and then your logic snaps back in. So it's never a moment of judgment for, oh, I should do this or I should do that, or I'm dumb if I do this or I'm dumb if I do that. All those things are all byproducts of you being in that intense state. It's about who has access to your decisions in the moment. Is it that super excited, overconfident version, or is it that negative kind of paralyzed version? And understanding that you don't get to choose if you switch or not. You're going to switch over because you're a human. That's one of the biggest downfalls, is that adults will try to say, I'm an adult, I get to choose if I want to feel intense or urgent or like feel some sort of thing about a situation. It's like when something needs to change or something happens or something drastic pops up, it is a natural response to want to try to fix it or to need to fix it or to make some moves and start getting some stuff moving. But at the end of the day, that's not the problem. The problem is who is making the moves. Is it that negative version or is it that excited version? Either or, neither of the two should be making it, is the point that I'm getting across, right? If everything feels like an opportunity or everything feels like a doomsday where you're super paralyzed in making a decision, neither of those are ideal, but one of them is going to dominate until you get back into the logic. So it's all about who has access to your decisions in that moment, in real time. Apply that 10 to 15 minutes. You can expand that, obviously, if it's a super big decision. As long as you can wait before having to make a decision on something financially, let that be the delay that you give yourself. Is your next decision, like the next thing that catches on fire, the next thing that happens for you, are you going to deny that you're having that switch, or are you going to say, I'm going to label if this is my logic or if it's my emotion, and I want my knowledge to override my emotion instead of my emotion overriding my knowledge. And that is really how you move into making better decisions as an adult, instead of trying to deny the fact that you're making that switch in the first place, which is a super major downfall.